Okay, good morning, everybody. I think I know most people here, but for those who don't know me, my name is Sue Hackett, and I work in the QA section of QQI. I'm the manager for validation of English language services and transnational programs. I'm going to take an opportunity for about the next 5 to 10 minutes just to take you through in more detail some of the aspects that Brian has just mentioned to you there. So it's a sort of overview and introduction of the new QQI approach to ELT, and I hope you're going to find it interesting. I am aware it's a lot of information for people to take on, so you will have an opportunity for some Q&A right at the end. You can see point 6 here before going into table discussions in the second half of this session. Okay, so firstly, I've got to stay at the podium here. Firstly, here are some sort of key points. So the proposed QQI ELT approach, as you're probably already aware, you will all have received your renewal recognition forms for 2016 a week or so ago. ACELS is being maintained until such a time as the IEM mark is introduced. As Brian said, we can't be entirely sure of the time frame on that, as many of the issues are outside our hands, but we can assure you that the ACELS scheme will continue until such a time as the IEM scheme comes in. By maintained, this means ACELS is closed to new applications. It will continue to remain closed to new applications. There's no change there. It currently comprises exactly 100 recognized ELT organizations nationwide, representing roughly about 150 ELT centers. So you can see that it's quite a large group of schools, a large group of recognized providers all going about their daily business. Our other activity in relation to that maintenance is maintenance of the list of recognized schools on the website, maintenance of the regulations on an annual basis, and you will have received the 2016 copy. That will go up on the website in the normal way in January, along with the renewed list for 2016. And thirdly, and perhaps what takes up most of our time, are the monitoring inspections. So I'm sure you're aware, you can recall, that it's been in regulations for a long time. Inspections are triggered through change of ownership, change of premises, new additional centres, or changes of management, either general or academic. When those happen, you are obliged to notify ACELS, and then, as you know, an unannounced inspection takes place shortly afterwards. Just to give you an idea of extent, it's 100 recognised organisations, and this year we did 40 monitoring inspections, which is more than a third of the number of recognised organisations. So you can see that's quite a high volume of activity in terms of still supporting and giving opportunities for improvement to the ACELS recognised sector. The second point there are new QA guidelines applicable to all education and training sectors. QQI now has the HE sector, the FE sector, and the ELT sector. So 3 separate pillars, if you like. Okay, so that's that perhaps has always been the case, but never been quite as explicit as that in documentation. And if you take an opportunity, as Brian said, to take a look at the strategy, you'll see ELT very clearly marked there as well, along with other documentation that has recently come out. My colleague Karina is going to talk to you in detail about the QA guidelines, so I'm not going to go into a description of them here, but you're going to hear about them in just a moment after this talk now. And the third point there, and of course it's always nice to be able to convey some good news and something new, a development, an ELT domain of awards, which we have now agreed is a specific domain. So there is now, in the same way that you have higher education awards, further education awards, there is a domain of ELT awards. Currently, we have two, or rather more than two really, but we have two areas of standards already developed, already published up on the QQI website. One is the International Foundation Year Standards, and they were hot off the press, so to speak, published yesterday in their final form. Two sets of standards. It's a certificate, so that's an academic year. For undergraduate International Foundation Year, the standards are at level 5 on the National Qualification Framework of Qualifications, and for postgraduate, they're at level 8. And please take some time to have a look at those. I think that's, that those qualifications are within this new ELT domain of awards. We also have, and they have been published some time ago during the year, levels 6 to levels 9 on the National Framework of Qualifications ELT teacher training standards. And for anybody here who is a CELT provider, you'll see that CELT is placed at level 7, and the type of award reflecting the volume of learning is Special Purposes Award. Okay, those are up on the website as well, and they should be open for validation in the middle of next year. Okay, so kind of a nice development, something new for providers to think about in terms of their provision. Okay, just to give you an idea of how this year and the next 2 years are envisaged. So 215, as I've said, ACELs maintained, monitoring inspections continue, and as you can see, that is the same for 215, 216, and 217. So ACELs remains and continues in its maintenance capacity for up to the end of 2017, as we have it planned at present. Again, in 2015, we had the standards for the 2 domain qualifications published, and I've just described those to you. You can find them on the QQI website. We also have recruited a number of expert senior ELT professionals who are now on the register of panel members maintained by QQI. These people may be called upon to join panels for program validation, for example. The Code of Practice, originally developed thinking that the IM may be coming in more quicker than is going to be possible now, but it's finished, it's published. You have a copy there to take away with you on the table. You may have seen it and engaged with it indeed already, as it's been up on the website since the summer. And you'll see it mentioned again later on in this presentation, but it certainly has a role to play in ensuring that when you are putting programs for validation in, for example, that will be one of your criteria. Okay, I've got to speed up a bit, I think. Key documents published for consultation. These are up on the website. Please look at them. Share them with your colleagues, give feedback. This is your opportunity to do that. It carries on until February. Please take this opportunity. 216, apart from the ACELs maintenance, we have provider access to approval of ELT QA opening during the year. Access to program validation for those 2 ELT domain qualifications, again, in either Q2 or Q3 of 2016. And we will also be working in collaboration with the recognised sector in the development of standards for general ELT awards. So that's another quite exciting development. We're at a very initial stage of that, but conceptually that's accepted, and we're going to now operationalise it. 2017, we hope that there will be access to at least some of the programs that are developed as a result of that general ELT award standard development. And although we don't have control on when the IEM can be introduced, we can at least ensure that we have all our preparation done, so that as soon as it's enacted in the amended legislation, we are ready to respond to that and introduce it as soon as possible. The qualifications route, just really quickly, if you're looking at program validation, providers who don't have, which would probably be most ELT providers, who don't have QA procedures already approved by QQI, you apply for QA approval through the initial access route. And all the information on that is up on the QQI website. All providers that then, having gained that approval, are then eligible, if you choose to do this, to validate your programs. There's no obligation to do that, but if you so wish to put in some programs for validation, you are then in a position to do so. So the QA, agreeing your QA, is the first step to then going down the program validation route. The intended outcomes, just to reiterate, there's an established separate domain of national QQI ELT awards on the national framework of qualifications. So that's a real innovative and quite exciting change, development, and we hope you're going to feel the same. The Common European Framework Reference for Languages is accepted, adopted, and to be applied as the framework for description of language competences within the QQI operations. And that, again, is a new decision that's been taken. Providers of English language programs may offer national QQI ELT awards on the NFQ. You have that opportunity. You may see that as something that fits your business model and that is very attractive to the type of provision that you have, or you may be looking at developing provision in that area. So that's an opportunity. Providers of validated ELT programs, touching on what Brian said earlier, are then on a statutory footing with QQI. ACELS is a legacy non-statutory service, which can sometimes make it a little bit uncomfortable. But if you are a provider of a validated ELT program, you are therefore on a statutory footing with QQI through that program validation. And ACELS as a brand and non-statutory service of QQI will be withdrawn following the introduction of the IEM, but I really, and particularly bearing in mind comments from meeting one, can't stress enough, it's not going to disappear until such a time as there can be a proper formal handover that is streamlined and doesn't destabilize the sector. Okay. Right, thanks for listening. I'll hand over to my colleague Karina here.